Ми не знаю, глянемо ролик на фільм «Хеллоуін». Ці канали підспинаються, мені попався ролик від нього, воно преслідує, не понравилось, підписався. Такі суждения по фильму ужасів. Ладно, смотрим фильм «Хеллоуін».
John Carpenter's Halloween, also known as the greatest movie ever made, has provided us...
начинает, типа, Джон Карпентер, Halloween так железно, как один из лучших фильмов истории, типа, один из лучших фильмов. Ну, возможно, мне он понравился, когда я посмотрел, но, к сожалению, я его смотрел довольно недавно. Мог еще лет 7-8 назад. О нем слышал еще обзор Акра давным-давно. Однако мне соспойлерил сюжет, но было ощущение, типа, нафиг смотреть, если я и так знаю сюжет. Зря, мне фильм понравился. Но в какой-то момент был десь... Пропав інтернет, і мені случайно він попався по телевізорі. Тоді на сім якась поломка. І мені понравилося. Доволі такий атмосферний, хороший, я знав сюжет, но потом было интересно посмотреть. Я некоторые сцены сам по-инакшему понял, потому что как там скорее шутил, то персонажи дико тупі, вот Майкл, этот убийца, приделся в простынь, типа, как-то язык, не понял, что это не парень. Но когда сам смотришь, на ощущение, что он тупа, что не догадалась, что це не той парень, а убийця, а що скоріше думаєш, скоріше не хочу про це думати, це просто страшно, довольно. Довольно, да, атмосферно.
With the tropiest of horror movie tropes that all of us totally sane people have fallen madly in love with over the years. But nestled deep within this foundational seed that sprung generations of murder movie mayhem goodness lies a defining essence, a rich subtext that I think has been all too often discarded in favor of keeping to the surface level. So, in celebration of every cool person's favorite holiday ever, let's talk about Halloween and why this year we should, if only for a moment, channel our inner John Carpenter.
Так би мені довелося, напевно, питатися кожне слово, об'ясняти, що він говорить, про це проводити.
I think Halloween 2 is an abomination and a horrible movie.
And dive deep into what really makes the 1978 original an unrivaled masterpiece. But first...
Начало воно, по-моєму, не було в субтитрах. Ці переходи в нього між темами, в нього сценарій поділений тем, тільки повністю буде вицяло в началі, як перебивку. Він може тупо смотрить, це крінжово. Ну ладно, я не буду приматувати, не вже буде в ролику. Ну йому крінжово. Тому що сам ролик, скільки я пам'ятаю, доволі так серйозно він осуждає, які там ідеї в фільмі. Іденський помню, там суждав, типу, фільм про те, що более взрослому, более вещи, более негативно воспринимаються.
$200. Дайте мені набір торцевих головок.
$200? Ви що, хочете купити всі інструменти в цій вантажівці?
Ні, мені потрібно...
Це реклама.
Halloween follows a happy little boy named Michael Myers, who gets just a little too carried away while playing trick or treat with his big sister on Halloween night. As a result, the system fails him and locks him in a psychiatric hospital. So, 15 years later, Michael sticks it to the corrupt system that wronged him and escapes, which makes his psychiatrist, Dr. Loomis, act like it's the end of the world or something.
He's gone from here, the evil is gone.
Michael then returns to his hometown of Haddonfield, where he falls head over heels for a groovy gal.
Він просто предсказував, да, Майкл відступив сестру, попав в психіатру, Лусу, виріс і якось втік з психбольниці, от сюжет фільму.
And Laurie Strode, who reminds him of his sister.
Флорик, як він сказав, напоминає сестру, типу, ну, вроді є його сестра.
Which makes him go all John Cusack without the boom. To show her just...
Сестрою началі вбив, що не може бути сестрою. Не пам'ятаєш, но точно якась його родственниця по сюжету.
How invested in their future he really is. But Laurie's scared of love. So Michael makes her jealous by flirting with her two best friends, Annie and Linda, right in front of her.
I think it's cute.
Meanwhile, Loomis can't stop oversharing with everyone how much he hated being a father figure for Michael.
I met this 6-year-old child with this emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
With Halloween Day now turned to Halloween night, Laurie finds herself babysitting, while Annie leaves to go get her Halloween bag filled.
Bye. Bye.
She doesn't get very far. However, as Michael pops out and really takes her breath away. Meanwhile, Loomis takes a break from searching for Michael to...
Всіх душе. Помню, він потім буде тут душити таким по телефонним кабелем. Не знав, що телефонний кабель стільки твердий, що можна здушити. Ну ладно.
traumatize some kids.
Get your ass away from there.
Тут довольно атмосферно. Сцена, вночі, що там зняли.
Feels pretty proud about it too. After getting into bed and coming together to battle gender stereotypes.
Go get me a beer.
I thought you were gonna get me one.
Yeah.
Linda's boyfriend Bob regrets thinking with his little brain while on the wrong side of a big knife. With Linda all alone now, Michael uses his cool shape-shifting powers to trick...
Ну, когда я это смотрела, мені показали, що вона така тупа, як просто не може повірити, що це от не чел, якого вона знає, хто-то посторонній, це ж довольно старша мисль, тому і як защитний механізм.
Cute, Bob, really cute.
Before treating her to a festive Halloween gag.
With her мысли про обзор актора, може стоїло глянути і реакцію актора на це, а не брати це аналітичний. Ну да ладно.
Ski friends out of the way, Michael finally calls Laurie out about all her flirting games and invites her to stalk it out with him across the street. So Laurie goes across the street to discover she's not very compatible with Michael's love language.
Знаєте, довольно жуткий був, що до того даже вначалі вона типу по телефоні, там таке дихання Майкла. Да, я потім, коли приходила вулицю, довольно теж довольно мрачно знаєш, що там буде маньяк.
Failing to understand.
В принципі, саспенс тут довольно є в фільмі. Ти знаєш, персонаж нічого не знає, а от коли йде...
That love comes in all shapes
Та маньяк тільки от такі йде.
sizes, Laurie runs away. But Michael likes the chase, so he continues to pursue his passion because love knows no limits or boundaries.
Поки немає аналітики, поки просто розказує сюжети. Пам'ятаєте, далі поки буде якась аналітика.
Meanwhile, Loomis's self-appointed neighborhood vigilante shtick finally finds relevance when he steps in to disrupt Michael's game. But Loomis took it way too far, so Michael boogeyman's on out of there faster than anyone can ever know if he was really even ever there to begin with.
盘子上画甜甜圈。现在让他们生。
Boogeyman's on out of there faster than anyone can ever know if he was really even ever there to begin with.
I'm so tired of songs like it turns out the way that you...
На російському думаю, що на українському, то не всім буде понятно. Думаю...
Is that it's in many ways a meditation on fate.
You see, fate caught up with several lives here. No matter what course of action Collins took, he was destined to his own fate.
In the very opening scene, the movie forces us into little Michael's point of view. We're complicit beyond our wills to this senseless act, powerless to change its course.
В нього от пішла аналітика, він знову начало фільму, до кінця вже не з пересказом, з курта аналітику.
Which, along with the picturesque still shot the sequence ends on, almost subconsciously imparts that this haunting moment is forever frozen in time, an original sin that can't be undone. In almost mythic-like fashion, this unfathomable violence is fated to repeat itself on this sacred ground. No matter what, Haddonfield was always destined to this fate. Outside of serving us this theme on a silver platter by having Laurie's teacher outright tell it to us,
Laurie, fate.
the movie also very cleverly seeds in the idea of a fated occurrence with some rather groovy filmmaking techniques.
Фейт не приводить як судьба, не бачу судьба.
And I have been told they said groovy a lot in the 70s. The subtle background presence of a barreling train throughout the movie is one of the most intriguing inclusions. For example, as Loomis is phoning to warn Haddonfield of what's about to go down, a rather obnoxiously loud train barrels in the opposite direction, symbolizing the unstoppable outcome that's headed straight for Haddonfield. And while the movie draws ever closer to the brutal killings that are about to transpire on this fated Halloween night, we hear those ominous train bells more and more. As Loomis speaks of the first blood spilled 15 years ago in anticipation of its repeating,
Standing on the lawn, he could have seen inside.
And most notably when Laurie arrives at the final stop of the night, moments before she's forced to come face to face with the evil she's been sensing all day.
Сложно то коментувати, он просто був пересказ і якісь рассуждения пішли по фільму.
A train is an unyielding force set on a track that won't be reversed once in motion. It simply barrels in the direction it's set on. And that's the movie's take on fate, that it's a fixed point in time that can't be moved.
It stands where man passes away.
And throughout the first half of the movie, we're imparted with the feeling that something terrible is going to happen as we watch these kids blissfully go about their day, unaware of the terrible destiny that awaits them. And this is, of course, mostly because of John.
Режисура, типу, що ми навіть в сценах, де просто нічого не происходить, тому що просто йдуть зі школи, ми шаємо якусь тривогу, що за ними от слідять.
Carpenter's incredibly simple yet incredibly effective score, which is just the best score ever created, ever. As the three soon-to-be victims walk through their seemingly...
Цей фільм, це теж один з лучших фільмів, тепер і музику хвали. Ну да, музика, в принципі, прикольна.
safe and secure neighborhood, talking of the things that feel so big and important to them at this time in their life, there's a strange uneasiness created by the distance the camera keeps from them, combined with that oh-so-ominous score. And so much of the terror of Halloween comes from its emphasis on the illusion of security. These characters live within the safety of middle-class suburbia where the true dangers and darkness of the world are foreign to them. Horrible things occur outside of their bubble, never within it, and certainly not to them. A young woman walking half-dressed with a child in the night isn't thought twice of, because death penetrating their safe space...
От у мене просто вулицю проходять з того, що ми знаємо, що з ними Майкл слідить, даже кажеться жутким.
...isn't even an imagined possibility. And Michael returning to Haddonfield to recreate his gruesome massacre with even more innocent victims feels almost like a ghostly karmatic reckoning. It was because Michael was locked away and reduced to the local spook story for kids that this cancer at the heart of Haddonfield was destined to reemerge stronger than ever. To remind the people of this pleasant little town, where the darkness of the world is kept swept under the rug, that the boogeyman is real and ever looming, waiting just beyond the peripheral. Death emerging from the shadows to extinguish their controlled little lives long before they expect it to is unthinkable. And despite all the clear warning signs,
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Ignorance is much more comforting.
More fancy talk.
Ignorance is much more comforting.
More fancy talk.
I don't need to analyze. Every word that comes out is a lie. Make it look like you're so ice, ice, ice. You won't make it to the finish line.
One key component of Halloween that gets often discussed is the idea that alludes to the bearskin things that go bump in the night, also known as sex. The subsequent slashers that took the horror market by storm after Halloween's massive success get a bad rap for sticking to the bare-bones idea of youngsters going to Bonetown and then being punished for opening the gates of said Bonetown.
I deserve to be punished.
We all deserve to be punished.
But regardless of the fact that some of these later slashers may have kept it as simple-minded as this,
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing with
I think it's safe to say that Mr. Carpenter's Halloween has much more on its mind. And a lot of these oncoming concepts will sound very similar to what we discussed in my X and It Follows videos because plagiarizing myself makes everything easier. No, because those movies themselves were very much homages to the deeper ideas that were often discarded following the earliest slashers, most specifically the OG Halloween. The main characters of Halloween are at that point in their lives where they're entering into adulthood and beginning to engage in bumping and grinding type things. Our main character, Laurie, however, is far more timid about going all in on this aspect of adulthood than her friends are. And while more cynical interpretations would suggest this is because movie is telling us hump hump bad, and since Laurie doesn't do hump hump, Laurie survive, I'd say evidence points to the more nuanced idea that with adulthood comes a heavy dose of existential awareness. While Annie and Linda embark on their super smash...
Тривоги за що? За жизнь, типу, екзистенціальність. Типу, ми розуміємо свою смертність, що можемо помереть, не нанкатовую, що маньяк, то створение какого-то страха, понимание, что может умереть, все ваши знакомые может умереть, в детстве вот этого не понимала. Да, вроде к этому. Ну да, он пытается вот Майкла более каким-то вещам, которые, наверное, касаются всех каким-то стандартным проблемам.
Bros expedition, Laurie has an almost sixth sense that leaving childhood behind means dark things ahead. An essential piece that's been eradicated in every single Halloween sequel is that Michael is portrayed as something of an intercourse demon here, often shown in or around bedsheets, which are associated with beds and thus associated with bedroom boinking. The audio and visuals of Michael offing his sister at the start, and the sounds made during both Annie and Linda's deaths all have a very naughty time allusion to them. Even Laurie getting that chewing phone call packs a very suggestive tone along with its general creepiness. Laurie is a Neo from the Matrix type. She senses something off and unglamorous about her adult reality. Her dating anxiety manifested in this elusive specter following her and giving ominous warning signs. Yet she ignores her intuition that something isn't right, that something bad is on the horizon.
Calm down. This is ridiculous.
This is communicated symbolically quite a bit. At one point, Laurie thinks she hears the sound of a woman in danger. Yet, it turns out to only be kids trick-or-treating.
Да, в Блоре немножко паранойя. Только это звук, это просто дети из конфеты на Хэллоуин. Но зато это паранойя спасла жизнь чуть кулдерального з неї маньяка.
Encapsulating the intrusive presence of an untimely death just around the corner as an adult versus the fun, games, and general freedom of being...
Тут есть такое. Просто, мне кажется, реально склонны к паранойи больше, чем дети. Дети более доверчивые, беззаботные. Есть такое. Лори как персонаж, который уже с более детства становится более взрослым. Да, мы поняли, фильм ужасов, это завуалированный показ, чтобы ты взрослым с тревогой.
Laurie is one to spend her Halloween night baby.
Завуалированное высказывание. Да, завуалированное высказывание, что будто взрослым не очень хорошо.
Sitting while her friends go off and get it on because she feels most at ease and herself around these kids. Because engaging in adult activities is a daunting and discomforting prospect in comparison.
I just talked with Ben Tramer. He got real excited.
Да, как будто ролик брали за типу, що фільми ужасів, це потому, що буде просто плохо, у вас буде параноя, у вас буде, що там ще він упоминав, крім параноя, да, страх смерті.
When I told him how attracted you were.
Oh, I'm so embarrassed.
I couldn't face it.
With these little ones, she could put their fears into perspective with authority, if only to help try and calm her own.
Tommy, stop it! Now there's nobody out there. There's no boogeyman, and if you don't stop all this, I'm gonna have to turn off the TV and send you to bed.
When she checks on the kiddos just before leaving to investigate the strange occurrences across the street,
Sleep tight, kids.
she's essentially taking one last look at the innocence she's been clinging so tightly to, before, in moments, she'll be forced to leave it behind forever, and be permanently changed by her fateful encounter with the very real darkness that exists in the world.
Keep on trying. You got it. I believe in you. You got it. I know you got this.
Death Rider approach. Я не знаю, чей это мод, который ходит. Мне кажется, довольно, да, глупо, ладно, уже это говорю.
Though Halloween has all sorts of savory layers worthy of a hearty deconstructing, at its most essential, it's an exploration of the darkness, of the evil that is a crucial part of our world, and how... Though Halloween has all sorts of savory layers worthy of a hearty deconstructing, at its most essential, it's an exploration of the darkness, of the evil that is a crucial part of our world and how we contend with its presence. Michael is like an elemental force. He not only represents an unstoppable destiny, but the very concept of the absence of light. And while the movie is smart not to pinpoint exactly what why Michael is, or why reality itself seems to unfold precisely in his favor, it's all in support of sticking to the abstract, to the notion of surrealism as a way of representing the dark, unconscious mind. And this stylistic choice is paid homage to here, with Laurie's poster of James Ensor, a Belgian painter from the 18th and 19th century whose works often explored the bleakest sides of humanity, implementing masked figures and a Grim Reaper-like character to represent the inevitable outcome of death.
Картини, які репрезентують дев, картини, які показують смерть, принципе, довольно распространено.
In this expression,
Она более современная. По-моему, же в Средневековье было, тоже всякие черепа рисовала. Були такі люди, типу, празднують ту глу череп, типу, було популярно моменти моря, я пам'ятаю, смерті. Оді ці картини появилися в основному мода на них, коли було в Середньовіков'ї епідемія чуми, погинуло людей від болезні, то стало популярним. Ці картини повні смерті, думаю, воно все, що в живописі, культурі до нас дійшло. Жаль, що зараз вроді як ніяких епідемій нема. Ну, там от сама, що смерть, що є.
inspiration works to capture Mr. Michael the Shape Myers as the embodiment of all that is hopeless and unexplainable, and more literally, as death itself and the raw power it holds over our fragile little minds. The beloved and forever etched into our brains opening credit sequence that slowly pans in on a carved pumpkin to the sound of Carpenter's score, which, did I mention, is the best score ever made ever, creates an almost hypnotic lure, which is reflective of the morbid curiosities produced by death's mysterious nature. But there's nothing truly to be understood here. Only the abrupt flickering out of the light. And this magnetic draw can consume, like in the case of Loomis, who's turned cold and obsessive and dedicates all that he is to eradicating the darkness he couldn't shake after looking at it for far too long. Likewise, by the end, Laurie has been confronted with death in all of its indifference and inhumanity. She's changed now, and her life can never fall back to the ignorance of innocence it was once tied to. The boogeyman is no longer some childhood fable.
What's the boogeyman?
It's a very real and relentless thing.
As a matter of fact, it was.
But an idea can't be contained in one singular shape. It's everywhere, and it's nowhere. An omnipresent force that surpasses human understanding. A cold shiver.
Всюди, нігде можна, не знаю, до цього просто так смерті можна з цим попитатися.
And our collective.
Типу, що то вражає, не знаю, це було про зусилля, да, розуміння екзистенціальності. Можна, кажуть, з цим зв'язати, типу, що ви знаєте, що помрете, але не знаєте, коли іменно, і якби воно везде і нігде.
Conscious.
Це попитатися зв'язувати, що він зараз говорив, тому що Джейсон не Джейсона, Майкла нам їх путаємо, ну, похожі, в принципі. Я непонятно, даже до опасности. Вот этот подход просто с черным экраном мини посмотрится правильно.
Everyone's entitled to one good care.
Еще будут какие-то? Не, наверное, это все, там даже уже ничего не будет. Да, видите, уже ничего. Да, мы посмотрели аналитика про 5-13 рассуждение, что аналогия на взросление. Ну, окей, в принципе, любопытно. Окей. В принципе, нормально, все, пока.